This is Algebra 2. Our homework is the complex conjugate. Today is the 23rd of September, 2025. I'm just going to make a very informal graph. I don't have a graphing paper. All right, I'm supposed to graph 1 plus 5i. I go 1 to the right, 5 up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this point is 1 plus 5. I'm just going to label it as a, actually. That'll be faster. Negative 3 plus I, negative 1, 2, 3 to the left, and then negative I down. And we have point B. 4 lives 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. That's point C. And I lives right here for point D. I is in the imaginary axis going straight up. The real axis is this old x-axis running left and right. Again, we're graphing these. 3 plus I is 1, 2, 3, and then I go plus I right here. And this is going to be point A. And I know that anytime that I multiply by I, that is really a 90-degree rotation going in this direction. And again, the other way of thinking about this is with a Cartesian plane, this is kind of like 3, 1, and I'm going to switch those into 1, 3. And I know if I'm rotating in the counterclockwise direction, I'm rotating somewhere in this range, which means I go negative and then positive. So I know it's going to be negative 1, then positive 3. I'm going to go negative 1, positive 1, 2, 3. And I get this point up here, which is going to be called B. And then I do the same thing again. I'm going to rotate. This is kind of like the number negative 1, 3, and I'm going to rotate these numbers again. Instead of 1, 3, it's now 3, 1, 3, maybe I shouldn't write it there, 3, 1, and because I'm going left and down, both of these should be negative, so negative 3, negative 1, I'm going to go negative 1, 2, 3, then negative 1 in this direction, and I get point C, and I rotate them again, I get 1, 3, and because I'm going right and then down, I'm going to go positive and then negative. I have a 1 and a negative 3, so I go 1 and then negative 1, 2, 3, and I get point D. If you want to check your work, what you can do is you can connect a line from these points to the origin, and each of these should be a 90-degree rotation. For example, this is a 90-degree angle, 90-degree angle, 90-degree angle, and 90-degree angle, so that's me checking my work. I have therefore multiplied by I. And number 3, this is going to be the easiest one out of all of them. The complex conjugate, if I go ahead and graph negative 2 plus 4i, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. This point right here is point A. The complex conjugate just means you change the middle sign. Instead of being a plus 4i, it's going to be a negative 2 minus a 4i, which is geometrically a reflection over the real axis. I'm essentially going down 1, 2, 3, 4, and down another 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think I might have done 5 there. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is point B. The complex conjugate, again, is just a reflection over the real axis, or changing that middle sign. This is the fun one, and this is the one I think a lot of students were struggling on, the reason for this video. How do you do this problem? And it would be really nice if I could be as accurate as possible. If I graph 1 plus I, this is point A. If I multiply these together, I have to do a little bit of math. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times I is I. I times 1 is another I. And I times I is I squared. If I add all of these together, notice my I squared, by the way, is a negative 1. My negative 1 and my positive 1 cancel each other out. I'm left with just I plus I, which is 2I. So my next point up here is going to be point B, which is at 2i. Then I'm going to do that same thing again. I already know that these two multiply to 2i. So I can instead replace this as what is 2i times the quantity of 1 plus I. And then from here I can distribute. 2i times 1 is 2i. And then 2i times I is 2i squared. Again, ooh, we have an I squared. I squared turns into a negative 1. So this is really saying a negative 2 plus 2i. If I come over here and say negative 2 plus 2i, means I go negative 2 and then plus 1, 2i, and I get point C. Okay, I already know that this problem is going to be 3 copies of 1 plus I times yet another 1 plus I. So this is really saying negative 2 plus 2i, what we just got from our last answer, times another copy of this 1 plus I, which means I'm going to multiply this, distribute. 1 times 1, or negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 times I is negative 2i. And then I do 2i times 1, which is a positive 2i. And then 2i times I is a 2i squared. And oh, look at this. A negative 2i and a positive 2i cancel each other out. They're opposites of one another. And this I squared turns into a negative 1. So I have a total of a negative 2 with another negative 2, and I get a negative 4. I come 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left, and I make a point. This point is point D. That concludes the homework assignment. I did make an extra credit assignment. What happens if you have a power of 16? And notice the pattern. It seems to be going here at what appears to be 45 degrees, another 45 degrees, another 45 degrees, another 45 degrees. That is a hint. You should also be paying attention to the length when you hit the axis. When I hit this imaginary axis, my length was 2. When I hit this real axis, my length is now 4. You might have to do a little bit more math to figure out what's going on down here. I definitely don't want you to do 16 iterations of this because that's a lot of work. There is a shortcut if you're looking for the geometric pattern. All right, with that, that concludes the video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.